Hi guys, this is the famous Hammarlund HQ-170 radio. Today in this demo we're going to show you how to remove the mica leaf capacitors from transformers T1 and T1 and T2. These are the dual conversion IF transformers. Now, I've already posted a video showing you how to remove the leaf capacitors from the IF transformers that have the brass ferrule in the bottom, and you can see the ferrule by looking up through the bottom of the transformer through the adjustment hole, and you can actually see the brass. If you don't see the brass, you're going to see some white plastic most likely, and you'll know that this is the kind we'll be working on, and we'll show you how to take them out and remove the leaf capacitors, put them back together hopefully without destroying anything, and solder two new capacitors on the leads to replace the internal ones that were deleted. So here we go. We're looking at the radio from the side, and the transformers in question are these two right here. That's T1 and T2, or reverse, I'm not sure which is which, but they're both identical. These are the ones we're going to have in the demo. Now if you look at these others, they also have mica slabs in them. That's T3, T4, and T5, but they have the brass ferrules in them, and we've already posted a video on how to remove those. These are the transformers we're talking about, T1 and T2. The upper coil, these are two separate transformers, and they're joined by what I call a tickler coil in between. It's supposed to transfer energy between the two transformers. This T1 up top, if you notice, this coil has a capacitor on it. That's the mica capacitor that we're going to remove, and the bottom one also has a mica capacitor. We're going to remove that too. The upper coil is a 3035 kc coil. The bottom one is a 455 kc coil. In the actual transformer, this coil is on top and this coil is on the bottom, so don't get confused by that. The 455 coil does not pick up enough energy from this tickler, so they added this capacitor right here, which is 2 picofarad, to transfer more energy between the two 455 kc IF coils. There is enough energy transfer for the 3035 kc with this tickler coil in this case, but if you were to separate the transformers for a good bit of distance, that tickler coil wouldn't work. You would actually have to put another capacitor between them. So we've identified the ones, and let's get busy. I'll show you the IF can, and we'll start taking it apart. This is one of the IFs in question, and you can see the Hammarlund number on it. It's held in the radio by clips. Once you remove the clips, you can pull the can out of the radio. Now, one caution: please do not cut these leads off. Don't cut them off. Just unwrap or clip as much of the wire off as you can. Clean it up with a soldering iron. You need these leads in order to solder everything back together. Also, the wires from internal to the transformer are wrapped right here at the base of these leads, and you don't want to damage those. So I have marked the transformer. You see where it says dot? I don't know if you can see that. It says dot. That's because there's a little green dot. If you look there, you'll see a dot that indicates the position of the coil in the transformer. Also, I put let's see if I can find the back of it. You see where it says rear? I don't know if you can see that very well. It says rear. I scratched that in there so that I know that goes toward the rear of the radio. It's important that you position the coil back in there. If you do it wrong, obviously something is not going to work right. This is the 455 coil up top. It's 3 pi's. Man, look how big that thing is. Most 455 KC coils aren't that big, but it actually tunes at 455. I can promise you that. You tune it with a hex ferrite. You have to use a hex tool to tune it. The 3035 coil is on the bottom, right there. And I hope you can see it. Right here is that tickler coil. It only has 5.5 turns to it. 5.5 turns. You see it's closer to the 3035 coil than it is to the 455. So they don't pick up a lot of energy out of that 455 coil on that tickler, just for the 3035 coil. Now the mica caps that are problematic are right here between these two pieces of plastic. You see this little slot here, and that's where they sit. They're held in place by pressure, and these clips provide the pressure in order to hold them together. The reason these micas are such a problem is because over the years there's corrosion buildup on the silvered surface of them, moisture, improper storage, dirt, bugs, atmospheric problems, whatever gets into them, makes them corrode a little bit. Also, sometimes the pressure fit is problematic, especially on the ones that have the brass ferrule. The ones that have the brass ferrule are going to have a brass ferrule right here on the bottom. This one doesn't have it. It's held in by these clips. The other type with the brass ferrule, you have to remove the ferrule in order to get everything apart. Now, in order to take this apart and get the mica slabs out of it, you've got to remove the clips. Then you can separate the two pieces of plastic, but you still have another problem. You see, you have wires here connecting the coil down to these leads, down to the fingers. You've actually got to unwrap 3 of these wires on one side, and I prefer to do it on the one with the longest wires, which is this one. And by the way, I'll show you a sample of micas that I've already pulled out. This is just a sample of those mica leaves that I've pulled out. As you see, there are dozens of them in there. Yeah, let's see if I can pour out a couple of them and show you a little better. There they are. And you can actually read the value on these by using your LCR meter. And you see this one has 2 capacitors on it. You see it split right there. So if you look at the back side of it, let's see if I can flip that with my fingernail. You're going to see it also has 2 capacitors on the back side, and you can see where the fingers were touching it right here. This one only has 1 big cap, and let's see on the back side, I think you're going to see the same thing. Yeah, 1 big cap, and you can see where the finger was touching it. Corrosion exists there. That's the big problem. As you can see, I've unwrapped the wires from the leads, from the fingers here. In order to do that, I put my soldering pencil on the leg, and I took my desoldering tool, which is aluminum or something like that that won't stick to the solder, and I scraped on them a little bit very gently until I got them to start to unwrap, and then I was able to pull them loose. Now if you break one, you may have to add a piece of wire on there in order to get it wrapped back around that leg. I prised these clips off with my little trusty screwdriver very carefully, and now I can open this up and you see the mica slab in there. Now hold it very carefully because you still have some leads attached and you don't want to destroy those. You can remove the mica, pull it out from under those leads. And this one's going to be a little bit harder. I'll work on it and then I'll come back to you. Alright, I've measured these pieces of silver right here with my LCR meter. This one reads 22, this one reads 100, and that's what they're supposed to be. 100 picofarad on this side, 22 on that side. Even though the diagram doesn't show that, I have determined that that's what they are, and if that's what you put back, I'm sure you'll be safe. Now this last piece that's remaining in here is nothing but an insulator. Also, one of the pieces that I pulled out was another insulator, and what it does, it keeps the leads separated so that the mica touches in the right place. I'm going to put these back in, these that don't have any silver on them, and they'll just kind of stuff it back a little bit. It may have been possible that I could have pulled this out without actually having to take these leads off if I could have lifted it up and had enough separation and pull that out. You might want to try that first before you actually pull the leads off, so that you don't wind up damaging anything. So it's worth a try anyway. Well, there it is, back together. I was able to successfully resolder those leads, but I would highly recommend that you take a thin pair of needle nose pliers and possibly try to pull that piece of mica out without taking these wires loose, because it will spread up a little bit when you take these side clips off. And the clips went back pretty tight because I put the clear mica slabs back in there just to stuff it a little bit so that the clips would not be loose when I put them back on there. If you should leave all of those out, the clips are probably going to be a little bit loose and you'll have to bend them over. So that would be my suggestion. Now this mica right here measured 100 picofarad on that side, 22 picofarad here. The 100 goes across the 455 coil, the 22 goes across the 3035 kc coil. So remember that. You might want to write it on your diagram just for posterity. You want to reassemble it correctly. Remember, I wrote dot right here, and that green dot that you see right there matches it. And also, you remember I put rear on one side of the can. You see where it says rear? That goes to the rear of the radio. That way you've got it oriented properly. Yeah, one other thing. When you took this out, you actually had to push the aluminum over because it was the aluminum had it held down right here. So what you're going to have to do is take and force that aluminum back over here and here, and on the other side here and here, and that'll keep it from coming back out. So there we have it, guys. These are all my little catches, just like going fishing. You know, you have your trophies. That represents a lot of radios right there and a lot of IFs. I actually have about 27 radios, a mixture of Hammarlund and Helicrafters. The Helicrafters, you don't have to do this, but the Hammarlunds are replete with these mica caps. I wish they had never done that because it was a big mistake. Hammarlund also made some other mistakes, which we'll talk about in the future. So if you want a good radio, take these micas out, replace them with permanent caps on the outside, on the legs, tune them back up, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching, guys.